Yeah, a very good evening to everyone joining us today for this special broadcast. Good to have you join us from different part of the world where you are joining us from today. And yeah, I'm super excited to have you join us today. Please feel free to drop your location as we start out this session today. Let's know where you are joining us from, what your name is, and your location. It's going to be a fantastic evening today because we'll be having a super session, and we have a fantastic speaker also to take us through what we are meant to do today. So please feel free, drop your name and your location. Let's know where you are joining us from this evening, either evening, afternoon, morning, wherever you are joining us from. Please, let's have you tell us your name and your location. Thank you for joining us. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So good to have you here, and we are delighted to have you. Yeah, as part of those that want to learn about grant writing today. Hello, drop your emoji, give your thumbs up. Let's have your reaction. Let's know where you are joining us from this evening. Yeah. You're welcome. So we'll be having a fantastic speaker tonight. Well, I'm sure some of you would have seen the flyer that went around talking about this grant writing project. Yeah, it's a project that we are starting out today. So yeah, it's very important for people in academics to learn about grant writing because it's something that would actually help many people in this space to actually leverage finances to support their research ideas. Yeah, it's very, very important. Grant is something that is needed and necessary in academics. So today we'll be touching, on this very fantastic topic, which I believe everyone is actually interested in. Please let's know where you are joining us from. Tell us your name and your location. Let's know where you are joining us from. I want to be sure we are communicating with a real audience tonight. Then if you can also add your title, because I remember a speaker specifically asked to know the categories of people joining the session for the presentation tonight. So let's know who you are. Are you a professor? Are you a PhD holder? Are you a master's degree holder? If you are convenient with that, but I just want to know that we are speaking with people in academics tonight. All right. So yeah. Do I have anyone in the chat telling us where they are joining us from? Okay. So we will be having a speaker come up shortly to take us further in this exciting and intriguing grant presentation session. But in the meantime, I want to be sure we have the right set of persons joining us tonight. If you look behind me, I have a banner at the back, and that's talking about the ICT University. They are a proud sponsor, yes, tonight. And I'm joined on the call with the Vice President Board of Trustees of the ICT University, and he'll be taking us through this session tonight. We have Professor Folusho Ayeni, who happens to be a distinguished faculty member who specializes in information systems and decision science at the Metropolitan State University. That's in Minneapolis, United States of America. So he's also a visiting professor at Capital Technology University in Laurel, Maryland, USA. He also works as a visiting professor to Makerere University Business School in Kampala, Uganda, and also Nigerian University of Technology and Management in Lagos, Nigeria. Well, for those who were on the call, when this fantastic speaker took a session, that was, I think, a couple of months ago, he touched on the possibility of people, academics now, he touched on that, the possibility of academics having access to grants, and we were all waiting for him to help conclude this session. But we are so blessed and so privileged tonight to have him join us on the call because we were supposed to have Professor Victor Mbarika, but he had slight change in his schedule. He's traveling tonight somewhere, yeah, to one of the countries, I think in Germany. So I think in specifically Brussels. He's going to Brussels. So he won't be able to join us live on the call tonight, but we had to make a last minute plea to this our distinguished guest tonight, who obliged us and said he would come on board to take this session. So I'm super excited to have him on the call tonight. And if you're also there, you're excited to have him, please let's have you drop your location and where you are joining us from. Yeah, I can see someone here. Okay, I can see Isaac Odugeson from Lagos, Nigeria. Good to have you, Mr. Isaac. And I can also see Majid Jamilu Ibrahim. That's from Usmanu Danfodio University, Sokoto. And I could also see Dr. Uche Francis. All right, good to have you. That's from Dr. Uche Francis from Hondo State. Good to have you. So please, wherever you are joining us from, let's have you drop your location, your name and your location, yeah, in the chat so that we can know who we are joined with on the call tonight. Thank you very much. Our very revered guests, our speaker. Yeah, we are so happy to have you. And we are so delighted you obliged us at the last minute, So please, can you just help me drop thank you messages for him? He deserves it. Thank you messages for obliging us and coming up, to speak with us tonight. So, like I said, let me just run through his profile. Professor Folusho Ayeni is a distinguished faculty member specializing in information systems and decision science at the Metropolitan State University, Minneapolis, Minnesota, United States of America. He's also a visiting professor at Capital Technology University in Laurel, Maryland, USA. Also Makerere University Business School in Kampala, Uganda. He also visits as a visiting lecturer at the Nigerian University of Technology and Management in Lagos, Nigeria. And he holds several positions of membership and publicity secretary at the Midwest Association for Information Systems, USA. Well, should I say he's a Nigerian-born US citizen? Yeah, so, and we are so happy to have him here. Prof. Ayeni's expertise and contribution extends beyond academia as he serves as the chair, co-chair, and technical committee member for several international conferences and workshops. Permit me to say that he chaired the ICT for Africa conference, and they had a conference about 2 weeks ago, fantastic conference, yes, where grants were even given to students. Yes, people competed and they were given grants to the tune of thousands of, CFA, that's Cameroon, France, millions of CFA. So all that were given to people, in that space, and they enjoy themselves. So grants has been something it does because it chairs that committee. It chairs it. Yes, it's the chair person for the ICT for Africa conference. Fantastic conference indeed, with different fantastic keynote speakers and participants from different parts of the world. And I need to wrap up his profile with this. He has a long profile, but I'm just going to touch on something. So he was recently awarded the Lifetime Achievement Award by the then US president. That's President Joe Biden. For you to have a Lifetime Achievement Award from a president, that is something fantastic indeed. So, Prof. Folusho, we are so happy to have you on the call with us tonight. And I know our listeners, our viewers at home are also happy to have you. So he will do this session with us tonight, as I'll allow him make his presentation and take us through this fantastic grant writing session, which I believe will be an enlightening session for so many academics on this call tonight. And I believe you have something to take home from here. Thank you so much, Prof. You have the floor.
Yeah, thank you. Can everyone hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. We can hear you.
All right. Yeah, thank you for having me tonight. And like the moderator here has mentioned, it's the last minute. Actually called me about 5 minutes ago to come step in the shoes But the interesting thing here is the speaker for tonight is, is a mentor, and we have worked together for years. So I can really convey his message, right? For the speaker tonight, I also want to apologize on behalf of the speaker tonight. We have both been on travels for meetings across different countries. I just got back this morning, and that's why I initially told Mr. Akinola here that I will not be available for this meeting today because I just arrived in the US this morning and I'm trying to rest and catch up on some things while the speaker is currently on his way to Brussels tonight for another meeting tomorrow. So that's why he's not unavoidably absent. But I will do my bit of best. I wasn't really prepared for this, but again, grants is what we do as a group. We have a research group. We work on grant, and we have a non-profit also where we do work on grants. Right. So welcome everyone. May I know how many people are online on the YouTube platform?
Yeah, let me check. Well, I could see what
I like to know, my audience. I mean, the background of my audience. Are they university faculty? Educators.
Yeah. Okay, let me just quickly run through that. We have Professor Nina Benwari, that's from Niger Delta University. We have Adedaya Adejumoke, Yaba College of Technology, Lagos. We have Oniye Chukwocha, that's a PhD holder from Federal Polytechnic Owerri, Imo State. We have someone from Lagos State, that's Mr. Isaac Odibeson. Yeah. So then we also have Mr. Majid Jamilu Ibrahim from Usman Danfodio University. Wherever you're joining us from, just please drop your name and location and let's know what you do. Are you in academics? Because that will really help our speaker to know who is actually talking to. But I can assure you we have a larger percentage of attendees who are academics, like core academics.
All right, thank you once again, and apologies I'm not able to turn on my video. I don't even know what is going on right now, but again, I just believe everyone can hear me. I tried to turn on my video, but apologies for that. I will, before I go into the PowerPoint, again, it was a PowerPoint prepared by the speaker for tonight, who's unavoidably absent, but again, I mean, I can speak to that PowerPoint. But before I want to go into the PowerPoint, I want to share a bit of my own notes here about grant writing. Some misconceptions, especially in the academia, right? There's been questions about, is grant proposal, is it a research document, is it a research paper? This is a question I really want to answer, right? I mean, there's some overlap between grant proposal and research paper, and I really want everyone to know that. Both in academia, non-profit, if you're in the non-profit, if you're in the industry, there's a bit of overlap between a grant proposal and a research document. Of course, there's a major difference between a research paper and a grant proposal. For example, a research paper is a systematic investigation or inquiry where you have to answer a specific question. You have to hypothesize, you have to theorize, you have to validate, you have to solve real-world issues in a research paper. But what is a grant proposal? A grant proposal is actually a funding or a financial support needed to produce research, right? Or a specific project. So a grant has two outcomes. It can be you're trying to do a project or you're trying to produce a research, right? A research outcome, right? Outcome from a research, right? So that's why I think there's a bit of overlap. But the interesting thing here is that for research paper, so you're writing a paper for a conference or a journal, you can only submit that research article to one journal or conference. You cannot submit a research paper to be considered in multiple outlets. But for grant proposal, the interesting thing is you can submit the same grant proposal in multiple outlets, which we have done as a research group, right? we have a research group, the ICT University Foundation. We also have the International Center for IT for Development. We also have the Global Technology Research and Policy Group. So we have done several grants to the tune of $4 million, right, over the past 15 to 20 years, right? But I really want people to understand that there's a bit of overlap, because in a grant proposal, also remember, you have to do some background, you have to do some literature review, you have to propose some theories, you have to, you have to do some citations, you have to do, it follows the same process, but the outcomes are different, right? So the goal of research, is to discover or to provide new insight. Why grants provide resources? So grants provide resources like equipment, money, personnel, right? Training, education, outreach, right? So grant is actually necessarily where the money is, right? And not research itself. But again, to be able to write a solid grant proposal, you need to be a good researcher. Because again, if you don't know what you're doing, right, how can you even put together a grant proposal, right? For example, the big grant agencies will not give you a grant if you have not produced a solid research. So you need to be a solid researcher to write a solid grant proposal. But there are two different things with a bit of overlap between both. I try to, because there's been a lot of misconceptions between grant proposals and research papers, right? So this is what I wanted to start with before we go into the PowerPoint slide and everything, right? These things I'm saying are not, I don't think they're on that PowerPoint slide, right? So you apply for a grant to get funding to conduct research, right? Now you can see how it's interwoven. It is a grant that gives you the audacity to conduct a research. For example, a scientist applies for a grant from the National Science Foundation to study climate change. Now, it can be a research, it can be a project. But for example, for those in the academia, it's going to be a research you're applying for grant for. But for those in the industry or non-profit, it can be to do a project, right? So there are two different, kinds of, grants there that you can write, right? That's why I wanted to know the background of my, audience tonight. So what are the deliverables from research, right? What are the deliverables, right? Research produces results, data, publications, patents, new theories, right? But with reference to grant requires accountability, progress reports, budget, documentation, and this is where grants can be more stressful than research. Because in research, you can just sit down and, you can even write a paper solo, but it's difficult to really write a grant proposal solo because there's a lot involved. In fact, grant agencies, let me just be blunt here. Grant agencies hardly give, like the big, very big, huge grant agencies will hardly give a grant to a solo person writing, a solo PI. We call them principal investigator. If you're solo, because they want to see, no man is an island, right? If you're thinking you want to go alone, well, you can do it successfully with research. I mean, editors are going to approve your paper, they're going to publish your paper, but it's very difficult to go solo with grants. Take, for example, you're writing a grant to understand STEM inclusion among, men and women, different races, background, gender, in an institution. You want to see, why are students in STEM behind, or why do students drop out in STEM, right? So, for example, grant agencies want to see a psychologist. Sometimes they want to see a sociologist on that grant proposal. They want to see an accountant on that grant proposal. They want to see a male. They want to see a female, gender balance on that grant proposal. And that's why sometimes you see about 6, PI and co-PIs on a grant proposal. So this is just to reorientate your mind here. If you're thinking you want to write a grant proposal solo, right, it is very difficult. Grant, funding agencies are skeptical when you decide to go solo on a grant proposal. Because again, there's a lot involved. For example, a research paper, a journal article is normally between 15 and 25 pages, right? For example. But a grant proposal document can run into hundreds of pages because, of course, you have to do a lot of documentation, budget, plan, 5-year plan, 7-year plan, 3-year plan. You have to do all these things, right? And that's why some persons hire grant writers to write grant on them. I've just been invited to lead, in fact, the email is still pending. My dean, just reach out to me to lead a university grant proposal, which I'm still thinking about because I've taken a lot of leadership roles within the university over the past 2 years, right now. It's a very big prayer, I think it's about $1.3 million grant proposal. And, they are stocked right now. They really want me, to come in because it involves AI and machine learning. They needed that expertise, right, to come lead that grant proposal. Now, there's already like 10, 10 of my colleagues are already on that grant. They just needed someone, with some AI and machine learning. So just imagine that grant is actually a social science grant, but they're trying to bring me in because they needed some part of that grant. They needed, I think the funding agency needed one of the co-PIs or the PIs to have a, requisite background in AI and machine learning. So which is going to make us about 12 if I actually finally decide to go on that grant proposal, right? So grant is different from research, but there's a bit of overlap, especially, when it's an academic, grant proposal funding agency. You can go now. I will run through the PowerPoint slide. I know Akin told me about, 10 to 15 minutes. I know I talk a lot sometimes, but I try to.
No, please, Prof, feel free. Take your time, please.
Okay.
Take your time, please.
All right. Yeah. All right. So, what about research, right? Research may be long-term, ongoing, or structured in phases. Now, this is not the day for research. We'll talk about research when it comes, because again, I see the way people do research in Africa and the way we do research here are two different things, right? But again, when it comes to grant has a defined period. For example, you're writing a grant proposal for a 1-year grant, a 2-year grant, a 3-year grant. At the end of 3 years, the grant is going to be terminated, right? For example, one of my goals this year is to develop a grant proposal on how to reduce homelessness among our veterans, among U.S. veterans, using by training them with IT skills. I want to focus on Python, on some data analytics or data science skills by reducing homelessness, and getting them some skills. Reducing homelessness by training them with some, modern IT skills that they can use to get into the labor market, right? Rather than them wandering on the street. Right. That's one grant proposal I'm working on. I think the call just came out. It's a 5-year proposal, I think, of $400,000 per year, up to 5 years max. And at the end of 5 years, it's going to terminate. Right. Research can be long-term. Research it can be structured in phases. What about scope? Research is an activity. Grant is a mechanism or resource that supports that activity. Now, let's go back to the first slide here. Right. Now, I think with a research paper or conference, journal article, and a grant proposal. Grant funding agencies want to see. So, for example, you cannot just wake up and start to write a grant proposal if you have not published a paper. And that is why academic grant funding agencies want you to submit your CV as part of the grant proposal, because they want to see papers you have published. They want to examine your experience as a researcher before you can submit a grant proposal, right? So why grant for academicians? Grant resources, developing proposal, checklist before writing, grant modules, common mistakes. You can go to the next slide here. Are you there? Can you move to the next slide? Can you hear me? Or am I stuck? Moderator? Okay, let me first make sure you can hear me first. Can you hear me? I cannot hear. I can hear. Ake, are you there? Or is it me? Can anyone hear me? Is anyone here in this room? Uh, are you there?
Yes, I am.
I lost you. I lost you at some point. I wanted you to change to the next slide. Do you remember you have the slides? I don't have the slides, right? I did not prepare those slides.
All right.
So yeah,
right, that's okay.
Apologies to everyone. I think I lost him or he lost me. I don't know who lost who. Yeah. So why grant scholarship, right? Grant itself promotes scholarship, right? And there's another reason here it's not on this PowerPoint slide, and I like to say it: respect. Grant brings respect, right? With the grant proposal, with the winning grant proposal, you can even slap your dean or VC. I'm sorry, I'm just kidding, right? It commands respect. Please don't go slap your dean or your VC. I always say that, it's just funny there. Right. It commands respect. It promotes scholarship, right? Because again, you're working on a project, you're solving some problems, you solve problems. It promotes, real scholarship. It commands respect. Your colleagues are gonna respect you. Your university management are gonna respect you. Just imagine you bring in $500,000 into your university, and remember, grant funding does not go directly into your pocket, right? Remember, you can say you have won $10 million in grant. All that 10 million does not go into your pocket. It goes into your university central account. Grant agencies will not pay anyone to their personal, will not pay directly to anyone's personal account. It goes to your university or your organization's account. And that's why it promotes that respect, right? Your VC will be talking anywhere and will say, oh, professor, this particular professor has brought in $2 million into the university, right? And then from there, you do your F&A, you do your budgeting, there's a percentage that goes to you every month from the grant in addition to your salary, right? And that's why grant is very important as a researcher. There are a lot of professors in this world who retire without even winning $10,000 grant, even $5,000 grant. What am I saying? Even $1,000 grant, but they call themselves professors, right? Who have never won $1,000 grant, not even a travel grant to attend a conference, right? And I'm not talking of the one that comes from your university for you to go attend a conference. No, a grant that you applied for, a competitive award that supports travel to go attend a conference, right? Which is the easiest type of grant. Now, scholarship, respect, and research collaboration. Like I told you, no man is an island. Never ever think of writing a grant proposal solo. It's not practically possible. And from the view of the grant funding agencies also, it's very difficult for a grant funding agency to fund a solo, when there's a solo PI, right, principal investigator, right? So it fosters research collaboration. Now, it will be interesting to know that 75% of funded grants are from multidisciplinary principal investigators, right? And I want you to note that. So in case you're in computer science or you're in business management, accounting, and think you don't want to have anything to do with the other people from the other side of the aisle, right? In your faculty, people from other faculty, you are kidding. You're not ready to win $1 million grant proposal. So you need to be open. You need to collaborate with people from outside your department, people from outside your faculty, people from even outside your university, right? For example, while I was at the University of Nebraska, we had I think we had a $10.2 million grant. That's a combination of 6 universities, right? People from 6 different universities came together to put in to write a grant proposal. Next slide, right? We have the National Science Foundation, U.S. Department of Agriculture, Department of Commerce, Department of Education, Department of Health and Human Services, Housing, Defense, Justice. Most of the U.S., and this is where Africa is really behind, right? But most of the, I mean, in Nigeria, they call them ministries. Most of the ministries in the U.S. have grant funding, funding available for university faculty to apply for. I mean, for academic people in academics to apply for. Now, I mean, you may be thinking, I'll go to the next slide. I mean, I think there are grant resources for international there. If it's not there, then I can say it, offer. Now, these are other grant agencies from Europe and the US, right? European space. And one good thing about European grant agencies are they fund a lot of grant proposals from Africa. You just need to collaborate. You cannot do it as an island. You need to collaborate with someone from Europe. You need to collaborate with someone at faculty. That's why you need to network a lot. You need to network with faculty. Everyone is on LinkedIn today. You need to network, know what the faculty is doing, propose an idea. And I remember there was a time we used to work with lecturers from Covenant University on grants. In Nigeria, they come up with a proposal, they write the proposals, and it supports at least, I think we won about $35,000 grant about 3 to 4 times, in collaboration with faculty from Nigeria. So you need to collaborate. This money is available, grant funding is available out there, and you qualify for it as a person in the academia, right? Go. Let me see if they have other agencies. Go to the next slide. So now there are other agencies that people don't even talk about, right? There are charitable organizations that fund grant, right? For example, we have, Tichan Zuckerberg Initiative. We have the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. We have Google Foundation. We have Facebook. We have Apple, we have Amazon. These people support, these organizations support global grants for people. Now, some of them may not, and I've said it before in one of my talks, right? They may not be able to fund in terms of money, but they can fund in terms of equipment, right? Say you are trying to do an e-agriculture project using AI, and machine learning to observe crops and stuff. They may send you equipment that those farmers that you can use, those farmers can use to observe their plant, seed, harvest and stuff that can be used on site, right? They can send you those equipment, right? I've seen people win equipment grant of up to $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 in equipment grant. So grant does not have to be in terms of cash or money itself. There are equipment grants that you can start with. It's just for you to win your first grant and you take it from there. And the good thing about grant proposal is you can easily modify that same grant proposal and send to different other agencies, right? So you can have 7 fundings for just one grant proposal, right? So how do you develop your proposal? There must be a problem, just like research, right? I mean, there must be a problem. You must identify a problem, brainstorm ideas. You can see with colleagues, mentors, right? You have to brainstorm. You cannot do this solo as a PI, right? Review literature. There must be a research gap. Now, you consider the similarity here between the proposal and research, because in research too, there must be a research gap. In a grant proposal too, there must be a research grant. Find collaborators. I've talked about this. This one is very important. Ask students. You can include your students on your grant proposal, your PhD students, your master students. I would not advise undergraduate students, but you can include PhD, your doctoral, and your master students. Seek advice from researchers in the field. Review funded research. Now, if you're trying to apply for an NSF grant, for example, NSF has abstract of already funded grants on their website. Now, they don't publish the full grant because of intellectual capital protection, but you can reach out. You can write a nice email to the PI that won that grant or the co-PI, asking them to share their full proposal with you. I have done this a couple of times. It works. 50% of the time, it works. Now, some PIs will not share their proposal, full proposal. But again, you can go on Department of Defense's website. You can go on Alfred B. Sloan. Yes, that's the one I'm looking for. That guy, that foundation is very generous with grants. Alfred B. Sloan Foundation, right? I don't know if I have the chat box here. I can type it. This is something you can explore. You know, for some of us that are based, you know, outside the Western world, probably in Nigeria or in Sub-Saharan Africa. Alfred B. Sloan Foundation, Chan Zuckerberg, Bill and Melinda Gates. These are organizations that support global grants. Right, next slide. So before you write, right, discuss your proposal, there must be an experienced grant writer on that team to write. You need to consult with an expert. People pay or hire grant writers over here, right? Don't think all those grants are being written by faculty. Faculty may have the idea, but sometimes they hire grant writers. It is ethical, right, to hire grant writers to help you. So discuss your proposal and study design, agree on general design, review a successful proposal. Like I said, go on that website, go on the funding agency. They always have the abstract of the funded grant where you can reach out to the PI of that funded grant to share their full proposal with you, right? You just have to be nice when you're writing. Cold emails, very nice cold emails. Writing style will vary according to grant RFP. And grant proposals, just like journal articles, are very strict with their guidelines and their due dates. Grant proposal, if they say a grant is due 11:59 p.m. on the 10th of August, they will cut it off at that time. If you submit 12:01 a.m., they may not review your grant proposal. They are very strict with grant proposal. We have had issues like that, even when we know some of the, you know, grant proposal committee members, reviewers, when we know them, sometimes they still do not. If we submit 2 minutes late, they cut it off at that point because they already have, remember, they have reasons to cut your grant, you know, to not review your papers because they have already received several papers, several proposals. Go ahead. Next slide. So, what are, I mean, this is just a surface grant proposal session, right? I mean, because we are not going into details here. If we need to go into details, then we need a workshop, right? What are common mistakes in grant writing? Generic proposals, too much Y and little R, lack of focus, right? You want to solve a lot of problems within that same proposal, right? I mean, these are some of the problems with research articles too, right? You can see there's a bit of overlap. Lack of original or new ideas, lack of preliminary data. Grant funding agencies want to see some level of preliminary data that you've gathered, right? Unrealistic cost analysis. Now, for example, people are too ambiguous, right? Some people, so for example, a grant funding agency calls, there's a call request for proposal that between $200,000 and $450,000. A lot of people will want to say they're applying for $450,000, the ceiling, they go for the ceiling without the work involved. It's not commensurate with the ceiling of that grant of $450,000, right? So circular reasoning, poor writing, unsustainable projects. Next slide. So I mean, I think this is the final slide here. But again, it doesn't matter if you have a PhD or not. You can start by applying. I remember my first grant as a master's student was $2,500 from the Association of African Universities. That was my first grant proposal as a master's student in 2000 and I think it was in 2009, if I'm not mistaken. In 2009, right? That was my first grant proposal. I remember everyone discouraged me, right? About 55 countries in Africa, 5 of us got that grant from the Association of African Universities, right? $2,500. Not a lot of money, but was a lot of money back then, actually, right? So that was my first grant proposal. I mean, I did that solo though, because they needed it to be solo. It was just, a grant proposal, simple grant proposal. It was a 10-page grant proposal, 2,500. So it doesn't matter if you're a master's student, keep searching online. There are a lot of grant funding calls out there that you can apply for, and don't let anyone distract you. Now, if you're in the academia, you have a PhD, you need to start going for the bigger grants, right? You need to start with minimum $5,000 grants and above, right? There are a lot of them out there. You don't need to go to the research agencies. You also need to search in the non-profits, right? A lot of non-profits across the globe give either cash grants or equipment grants, right? This is what you need to do. Collaborate, collaborate, collaborate. Don't attempt to do a grant proposal solo. And I'll end it, this afternoon, which is tonight for you guys. Like I said, it's the last minute stuff for me, but I think I'm able to share from my own writing. Thank you.
Thank you so much, dear Prof. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Can we just shower him appreciation for really heeding the call at the last minute? Like, I must tell you, I called him around that was about 51 minutes ago. That was when we had the call session, and he was able to come up with this for us. Can we just appreciate him? So I want to say a big thank you to you, dear Prof. Thank you for coming on board and saving the day for us. I have a question in the chat waiting. If you still have any other question, please feel free to drop it, because I want to allow him go. He just got back to the US this morning, his time. So we need to allow him rest. So I have a question here from Prof. John Ayedodman. He said, will you be willing to collaborate with my university? Erudite presentation, please kindly share your slide. All right. Said, will you be willing to collaborate with my university? This is a $1 billion question. Prof.
We can discuss further. I need to see the team I'm collaborating with, their CVs, what they have done so far in terms of grant. I mean, that might interest me. Probably their field also. Your department, faculty, and stuff like that. Then we can see areas of collaboration. For example, if you go to the first slide, let me show you something from I think you skipped that first slide. For you to see the kind of grants we have done, right? It's on the first slide. Now you can see here, you can see that we had a National Science Foundation grant within the US and Cameroon. And we collaborated with the University of Boya in Cameroon for this. It's not a lot of money, $41,000 there, right? So it's a win-win situation between the two institutions. You see another one, US-Cameroon collaboration for information technology in healthcare, right? $150,000. So this is where collaboration comes in place. Now, if you say you want to do it alone as a Nigerian team and put it in there, your chances may be low. And that's why, I'm kind of welcoming that first question. But I said, we have to assess the situation. Akin will reach out to me, probably forwarding, linking us together and see how we can discuss further from here. I have to assess what your team looks like, where your university is located, your CVs and stuff like that. Yeah.
All right. No problem. So if you are interested, Prof. John Ayedodban, feel free to drop a message for me and drop the related details. I will look at that and share with him. If he says yes, then I will bring the two of you together. I will serve as a mediator. And all right, so Prof. Nena Benwari said, great presentation. Thank you very much, Prof. Then Olatunji John Alabi said, good presentation. Thanks, Prof. All right, so we have so many people thanking you here and appreciating the presentation tonight. I know some persons are requesting if they could get the slide. All right, the problem, we'll see what to do to that. All right, thank you so much. Since we don't have any further question, I think it's fine. We just allow him go complete his rest. He said he doesn't want to do anything today. For him to come up and show up today, you know, in this webinar is a big win for us. Thank you so much, dear Prof. We appreciate you dearly. I will pray the Lord keep blessing you and keep adding more grants to your your profile. Thank you very much for standing in for Prof. Barika. We are so glad.
Yeah, thank you, Pastor Akin. Nice to see you.
Thank you. All right. Yeah, so thank you, everyone. We'll be having another session. And let me quickly add this here that we'll be having a conference, a second Nigeria Artificial Intelligence in Education conference coming up in October. This is going to be a fantastic session. We'll be having a hands-on session from Prof himself, like practical session. You might have the privilege of meeting him in person. It will be holding at Federal University of Lafayette in Nasarawa State. That will be in October. We'll be having a conference, a second conference. That's in conjunction with the Federal University of Lafayette. We'll be having a special session, workshop session on grant writing, and the Prof will be available, you know, to take that session. So if you're interested in meeting him, I know he'll be available to actually respond to any of your questions then. That's going to be in the second week of October from the 7th to 10th. October 7th to 10th. Second Nigeria AID conference will be available. Yes, I'll be having that at the MIS Hall, Federal University of Lafayette in Nasarawa. Yeah, so thank you so much. I think we need to close for tonight. And if you have any further questions, please feel free to reach out. I'm going to attend to you. Thank you so much. The Lord bless everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Prof.